prayer for today is on page, not big page, 112 of Universal Prayers, the last one on page 112 in the book Universal Prayers. This is from Skanda Puranam. Skanda Puranam is one of the 18 major Puranas, and this shloka is from that. Ekam brahmaiva dvitiyam samastam satyam satyam netarachasti kinchit eko rudro nadvitiyo vatasthe tasmadekam tvam prapadye mahesham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord Shiva, thou art the one Brahman without a second. Thou art everything. Thou art the one truth, and verily there is nothing but thee. O thou destroyer of misery, thou alone dost exist eternally, and none besides. Therefore I take refuge in thee, the Supreme Lord. Om peace. May there be peace in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. May there be peace everywhere in nature. Adhyatmika Shanti, Adi Bhautika Shanti, Adi Daivika Shanti. In verse number 23 is being explained. Yoga means meditation in this present chapter. In the previous verse, sloka number 22, Bhagavan said, after achieving this perfection in meditation, there is nothing higher other than that, greater than that to be achieved. That's the highest goal that a human being can ever hope to achieve. Namely, experiencing oneness with the divine in deep meditation, transcending all our worldly awareness, body consciousness, leaving the idea that I am the body, I am the jiva, I am the mind, I am this, I am that. Going far beyond this domain of ignorance and being merged in with the becoming one, merged with the Supreme Being. That's the truth. Even now that is the truth, but you are not experiencing it. That is the height of yoga. After achieving that one, there's nothing more to be achieved. You cannot say the same thing about worldly things. In worldly life, no matter how much you achieve, there is still something more to be achieved. No matter how much money you have, how many billions, you can still make more billions. So there is no limit. It's an endless pursuit, but not in spiritual life. Once you achieve the divine consciousness in meditation, that is, you have reached the goal of human life. You will never come back to the domain of ignorance. That is a one-time achievement. So in Shloka 23, the benefit of doing this is explained. So let us do verse number 23. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samhitam sanischayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna cetasa. The translation here is, know that to be styled yoga, which consists in disjunction from experienced pain. This yoga has slowly got to be practiced with an undejected mind. The English translation is not always very lucid. So we can study this shloka. Tam yoga samgitam yogam vidyat. Vidyat means we have to know. Vidya means knowledge. Vidyat means we have to know that yoga is Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam. Dukkha means all kinds of suffering. You are aware three kinds of suffering are there. What are they? Adhyatmika tapa, Adi Bhautika tapa, Adi Daivika tapa. Tapa means heat or suffering. Three kinds of suffering are there in human life. So, going beyond all these three kinds of suffering, transcending all these three kinds of suffering. That's why we say Om Shanti 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 three times. Once for Adhyatmika Shanti, peace within, once for Adibhautika Shanti, peace among all beings, and once for Adidayavika Shanti, peace in nature. Three kinds of problems and three prayer for solution at all the three levels, peace at all the three levels. So here, Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam. Yoga means Viyoga means separation. Viyoga means separation. Yoga means union. Viyoga, separation of Samyoga, combination of Dukkha. So to make it simplify, yoga is separation of union with dukkha. That means freedom from all kinds of dukkha. If we practice yoga meditation, then that will make us free from all the three kinds of suffering to which we are prone. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. Yoga means separation. Separation from the union or combination with dukkha. Human life is combined with dukkha. That will come in later chapters. Earlier also it has come. Dukkha is inevitable in human life. Animals also have dukkha. So that inevitable dukkha which comes in everybody's life of different types of dukkha, that dukkha has to be removed. You don't want any connection with that dukkha. The connection with dukkha has to be removed. Dukkha samyoga. Samyoga means connection with dukkha. We don't want any dukkha. What causes this? What causes that separation from dukkha is yoga. Yoga samhitam. The definition of yoga. Yoga is something that permanently removes all kinds of dukkha from our lives once and for all. Once you are established in yoga, no dukkha of any kind will come back at all. That is yoga. Now, how to achieve that one? Saha yoga, that kind of yoga. Nischayena yoktavyaha has to be definitely practiced. How it has to be practiced? Anirvinna chetasa. Chetas means mind. Anirvinna means undejected mind. If we are having negative feelings in our mind, negative feelings such as anxiety, fear, anger, etc., then mind will not be calm, you cannot practice meditation. That we know from experience. So you have to make the mind free from all these negative emotions. Anirvinna chetasa, undejected. Nirvinnata means dejection, feeling of hopelessness, feeling I cannot do anything, I'm not fit for practicing yoga. All those negative feelings should not be allowed to come to the mind. Why? Because in everyone there is the same infinite potential. In everyone, whether we know it or not, experience it or not, it is same infinite potential is there. God is sitting there in our heart, even now, has been there. How can there be any negative thing? The negative thing comes in the mind. So we have to remember, Sri Ramakrishna says, I'm a child of God, I'm a servant of God, I've taken the name of God, how can anything negative be there in my mind? I may have done many mistakes, but once I take the name of God, my mind becomes pure. Everyone has the same infinite potential. No one is less. That is the message of Vedanta. Swamiji said, each soul is potentially divine. The divinity is hidden potentially, but it is there. And it can be brought up by practice. So we should not think negatively. Anirvidna chetasa means without negative thinking, without dejection. That yoga has to be practiced with a positive frame of mind. Yes, I can do it. It may take a little longer for me. For some people, it may be easier, but we're all at different stages in our journey. I can do it. The Lord is sitting in my heart. How can I not be able to do it? He's beckoning to me every moment. He's waiting for me. I'm his child, I'm his servant, I'm devotee. So I'm going to do it. With that positive frame of mind, you have to sit down for meditation. Then it will be easier. We should not ourselves put obstructions in our mind by negative thinking. That is the idea in this verse. Saha nischayena, definitely, certainly, yoktavyaha, the yoga has to be practiced. How? Anirvinna chetasa, without dejection or any kind of negative feeling. You have to practice yoga every day. So that is verse number 23. We'll come across some very interesting verses in today's class. Then 24, 25, they are one sentence, two slokas, but they form one complete sentence. So we can do them together. Let me chant 24, 25. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman त्यक्त्वा सर्वानशेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः शनैः शनैरुपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किञ्चिदपि चिन्तयेत्. Let us start from the reverse, the bottom line. Manaha atma samstham kritva, making the mind fixed in the Atman. Those who follow meditation according to the Upanishads, formulas attributed as Brahman, they meditate on the Atman. I am Brahman, like that one. But devotees meditate on their chosen ideal. Whoever. You can visualize our Ishtadevata in the lotus of our heart. Then we can meditate on that one. Atma samstham manah kritva, making the mind fixed on the Atman or on our Ishtadevata. Anatma samstham manah kritva, kinchidipi na chintayet. We should not think of anything else. No other worldly thought should come during the time of meditation. All other things, concerns, questions, things to be done, we can postpone until we finish the meditation. Whatever time we have, half an hour, 1 hour for meditation. After that, we'll deal with the world. Many things are to be done. We'll do all of those things. But during this time of meditation, I'm not going to think about anything else at all except my chosen ideal or Brahman. Kinchadipi na chintayet. Worldly thoughts, if they come, what to do will come in the next verse, 26th verse. Worldly thoughts will intrude during meditation. How to deal with it will be explained in the verse number 26. But here says, Shanai Shanai Uparamet. Uparama means withdrawal of the mind, sense organs from worldly objects. Upariti or Uparama, they are same. Shanai Shanai means slowly, slowly. You know the word Shani is the Saturn, the Graha, 9 planets. He's called Shani because he moves very slowly. In each Rashi, he stays for 2.5 years. That's why he's called Shani, because he moves very slowly. Shanai means slowly, slowly. In one day, we cannot achieve big progress in meditation. It's a slow, painstaking, effort. Shanaihi Dhritigrihitaya buddhya uparamet. Dhriti means steadiness. With a steady mind, buddhi means with a steady intellect, uparamet, the mind has to be withdrawn from the sense objects. Uparati or uparama means withdrawal, not allowing the mind to think about worldly objects. During the time of meditation, we'll keep all those things later, we'll deal with them later. Then, the verse number 24. Asheshataha, last word in the first line, verse 20. Completely. Shesha means remainder, something remaining. Asheshata means without any, nothing remaining, completely. Completely. Kaman tyaktva, giving up desires. Kama means desire. Kama, completely giving up, at least during that time of meditation. They may come back after meditation, Kama may come back. But at least during this time, I'm not going to have any desire in my mind. Only desire is to know God. Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman. What kind of kamas? That arise because of desire to get some benefit. Sankalpa means that state of mind where we want to do something to get some benefit. If I do this, this benefit will come, I'll be happy. That kind of thinking is sankalpa, and that gives rise to a specific kama desire. I want to do this project. And then that kama will create all kinds of problems, as you've seen in second chapter. There are two shlokas in the second chapter which I like you to remember, describing the qualities of Chitta Prajna. Shloka number 62, 63. Those are 5-star shlokas in the whole of Gita. Chapter 2, verse 60 to 63 gives the entire psychology of desire and consequences. How desire arises in the human mind in the first place. What is desire? How does it arise? And once desire comes, what happens? One thing leads on that, another thing leads on another, and finally, buddhi nashat pranashyati. 62 to 63 in chapter 2. You have to go back and study those slokas periodically. So we don't want desires to come during meditation, at least during meditation. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman sarvan asheshatah tyaktva, giving up all desires for enjoyment arising in the mind. Manasa eva indriya gramam samantatah viniyamya. Niyama means control. Niyama means controlling the indriya gramam. Grama means a collection of things, a group of things. Grama also means a village. So indriya grama means all the group of sense organs, 10 of them, 5 sense organs, jnanendriyas, through which we get information, and 5 sense organs of action through which you do action. All the 10 are called indriya grama. Grama means collection, group of sense organs. Manasa eva viniyamya, by mind controlling the sense organs. What is the instrument to control the sense organs? Mind is the instrument to control the sense organs. That we know from Katha Upanishad, that famous imagery where body is compared to a chariot and Atman is the charioteer, the passenger. Mind is the controlling instrument. It's the mind that controls the sense organs. It's the mind that tells the eyes not to look there. It's the mind that should tell the hand not to touch that one. It's the mind that tells the feet not to go there. It's the mind that tells the tongue not to say anything during meditation. Like that. It's the mind that can control, that has to control all the indriyas, 10 sense organs. Manasa eva, by mind alone. Indriya gramam samantataha, from all sides. Viniyamya, controlling. Then next one, slowly, slowly, shanai, uparamet. The mind has to withdraw itself from all the sense objects. Upariti means withdrawing the mind from all the sense objects, not allowing the mind to think about anything other than the object of meditation. Sraneshwanera Paramed Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstham Manah Kritva, making the mind settled, fixed on the Atman or Ishtadevata. Nakinchidapi chintayet. No other thought should be allowed to come. These two shlokas describe the process of meditation. Put in simple terms, it means controlling all the desires. Kaman sarvan tyaktva. So many desires are there in our mind, and at least during meditation time, we should not think about this. No desire should be there in our. Only desire must be to know God. That's the only desire worth having. Sarvan kaman asheshatara, completely tyaktva, giving up all the desires. Manasa eva, by mind alone. Indriya gramam samantata vinyamya, controlling all the 10 sense organs by mind. Slowly, shanai, dhriti grihitaya buddhya. Dhriti means steadiness, firmness. With a firm intellect, buddhya, dhriti grihitaya buddhya, uparamay buddhya, mind has to be brought back from sense organs, sense objects. Manaha atma samstham kritva, making the mind settled on the Atman, not on any other object. Nakinchidapi chintayet, nothing else, no other thought should be allowed to come to the mind. We should not think of anything else during meditation. After meditation, whatever we have to think, we can take care of that. But during meditation, we should say no to all thoughts, all desires. So many thoughts will come, temptations will come, duties will, oh, I have to do, I forgot to do that one, it's getting late. All those thoughts will come, not now. This half an hour, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever you have, that's your time, you and God. No other second thing is there. That is the process of meditation, concentration. Now the next shloka is a very important shloka. If unwanted thought comes, unwanted thoughts come to everybody in meditation. No one is an exception as far as I know. There are maybe some people who can meditate without any distraction. There are, but most of us have these intruding thoughts coming. So when an intruding thought comes, then how to deal with it? That is explained in verse number 26. 26 is a key verse. You have to study it. It's very simple. There's nothing really complicated. Simple procedure is given. How to deal with intruding thoughts during meditation. So shloka number 26. Yato nischarati manaschanchalamasthiram tatastato niyam yetad atman eva vasham nayet. The yogin should bring the unsteady mind under the sole control of the self, withdrawing it from all causes, whatever that make it sally forth. Some of the translations are not very lucid or clear. Now let us see. Shloka is simple. Yata means from where. From where means mind goes in all 10 directions. Manuvato dahodisi firai. In all 10 directions, mind roams about freely at all times, especially during meditation time, it goes in different directions. Manaha chanchalam asthiram. Chanchalam means fickle, unsteady. Asthira means unsteady. Sthira means steady, firm. Asthira means unsteady mind. Everybody's mind is unsteady to some extent. Some less, some more. Yataha chanchalam asthiram manaha nischarati. Nischarati means goes away. I sit down for meditation on Sri Ramakrishna. I'm looking at Sri Ramakrishna's picture, but the mind goes away. What happened 20 years ago? No connection. All of a sudden, that distraction, from where it comes, we don't know. That is how the mind functions. So wherever the mind goes away, leaving the object of meditation, yato yato manaha nischarati, the unsteady, fickle mind, chanchalam astiram manaha nischarati, tatastataha, from all those digressions, we have to bring it back. Tatastataha, niyamya, controlling it. Niyama means control. Controlling it, you have to bring it back where Atmani eva vasham nayet. Bring it back to the Atman. You are assuming you are meditating on the Atman. Same thing on meditation on chosen night. Bring it back to Sri Ramakrishna. If you are meditating on Sri Ramakrishna or whatever, whichever form you are meditating upon, Devi or whatever, bring it back to that form. Wherever the mind goes away, leaving the object of meditation, in whatever direction it goes away, as often as it goes away, patiently, gently, make it dwell on the object of meditation. Simple technique. How many times? As many times as the mind goes away. Patiently, without getting upset. Because that's the nature of the mind. How long we should keep on doing this one? If you persist in this practice, if you don't allow the mind to go too often to distractions in other directions, gradually the frequency of distraction becomes less and less. With consistent practice, the frequency with which the mind goes away to different objects, leaving the object of meditation, that frequency becomes less and less with consistent prolonged practice. And finally, by the grace of God, concentration will come. So that is the technique. Actual technique of meditation is in 26. As the mind strays away from the object of meditation, in whatever direction it goes away, from all those distractions, digressions, gently, repeatedly bring it back and make it dwell on the object of meditation. This is, I gave an example like walking the dog. If you are taking your dog for a walk with a leash, and the dog is supposed to walk in front of you. It will take 4 steps in front of you, then it goes towards another car. Then what do? You should gently give a very gentle tap. Don't become angry and beat up the dog. Just gently say, come back. So it will come back and walk in front of you 4 more steps, and then it will go towards it. That's the nature of the dog. So as many times as the dog goes away from your front, so many times gently bring it back without being upset, without being impatient, and make it walk in front of you. Then dog will understand. After doing it repeatedly, the dog understands finally, oh, he doesn't want me to go here and there. He wants me to walk in front of me like that. The mind takes a long time to learn that lesson. But patient practice, repeated practice is the key. There's no other shortcut. The nature of the mind is manaha chanchalam asthiram, sloka 26. Mind is chanchala, asthira. Always fickle, moving and unsteady. And that as many times as it goes away, leaving the object of meditation, so many times you have to bring it back gently, patiently, and make it dwell on the object of meditation. That's all we have to do. Meditation process, technique of meditation. So that is sloka number 26. You have to keep on doing it. There's no other shortcut. Gradually, some concentration will gradually come. Then, what happens when you become established in meditation is explained in verse number 27. It's an easy verse. Prashanta manasam yenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutamakalmasham. Prashanta manasam, he means indeed Enam yoginam, this yogin who practices that way, repeatedly bringing it back, mind back to the objective meditation. For such a yogi, uttamam sukham upaiti, reaches supreme sukham that no other worldly thing can bring. People expect sukha, happiness, from all kinds of worldly things. Property, possession, family, children, relationships, all these things. We expect happiness from them, but we find again and again that we don't get happiness from them. It's a fruitless chase for happiness where it cannot be found. But true happiness, unlimited happiness, infinite, unconditional happiness will come only from the self within, which you have to reach through meditation. Making the mind stop thinking about worldly things, making the mind fixed on the self, then you discover, oh, all happiness is always here, has always been here. I was looking for it in the wrong place where it could not be found. That discovery will happen. So, verse number 27, Uttamam Sukham, supreme Sukha, not conditional Sukha. Worldly Sukha is conditional. If nothing is bothering, then we are happy. But something will change next moment. Something will go wrong and there is no Sukha. That's not true Sukha at all. This Uttamam Sukha means the highest, indescribable kind of happiness, infinite happiness, unconditional happiness is only in the Atman, in the self. Within each one of us, it is there, has been there from beginning. Even now it is there, only we are not able to reach it. Meditation helps us to reach that one. Is there infinite joy? Is there. Ananda is there. Sachidananda is there. It's our true nature. That can never change. Only we are unable to reach it because of our involvement, attachment in the world. So in meditation, what we do, we gradually disengage ourselves from our attachment to the worldly objects, make the mind dwell on the self, and then we discover, oh, this infinite happiness was already there. I just was not aware of it. That realization will come. That's what meditation does. To reach that one Sukha, we have to disengage from all the worldly entanglements, attachments, expectations of happiness from this and that. We have to give that up. Nothing can give us true happiness in the world. For some time they promise, they give a little bit pleasure, but then something will change. That's not the way. Prashanta Manasam, a yogi who has calm mind. Shanta means calm, peaceful mind. With a peaceful mind, Prashanta Manasam yoginam, Uttamam Sukham Upaiti. Supreme Sukha will come, supreme joy will come to that person. Then Shantarajasam, that yogi has to have subdued the rajasic tendency. We all know from earlier chapters, second chapter and also later 14th chapter, all of us have three gunas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. No one is exception, nobody is an exception. But what we have to do if we want to succeed in meditation is to reduce Tamas and Rajas and increase Sattva. Eventually, in deep meditation, Sattva also will be transcended, but that's a later stage. Present effort must be to reduce Tamas and Rajas. Shantarajasam, you see the word Shantarajasam there? That means a yogi, a practitioner who is striving to reduce the Rajas in it. How to reduce Rajas? What is Rajas? Rajas means a tendency to do things and get things. To do something and get something. That tendency is caused by Rajas. If I do this one, this will make me happy. If I do this one, this will prevent that problem. That kind of doing something to get something, that tendency is caused by Rajas activity. Rajas motivates to do things, expecting happiness from those actions. That rajas has to be reduced. Happiness, we all want happiness, but worldly activities and things will not bring happiness. Have to increase sattva, think more about the divine presence within me, not about the objects of the world outside. And that the divine presence within me is the true source of happiness. That's my true nature. I am that. I want to experience it. That frame of mind has to be cultivated. Shantarajasam, oh, you have subdued the rajas. Brahma bhuta makalmasham. To such a person, Brahma bhuta means, in the commentary, Shankara describes Brahma bhuta in this way. Already in Sanskrit, we'll translate it. Brahma bhutam jivan muktam brahmaiva sarvam ityevam nischayavantam Brahma bhutam. A person who has firm conviction that everything is Brahman, and I am that Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. 2 sentences from the Upanishad summarize the whole of Vedanta. 2 sentences. You don't have to remember the words, but remember the ideas. One idea is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Idam means whole universe is Brahman. Whole universe, whatever we see, experience is all Brahman only. 1 sentence from Chandogya Upanishad. Second sentence is in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I am that Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. These two are the basic foundation of Vedanta. A person who has firm conviction in these 2 ideas, such a person is a Brahma Bhuta. We have to develop that conviction. What we are doing now is we are thinking we are the body, we are the mind, and these are things that belong to me, and I get happiness from this, from that. That's what we are thinking right now. That has to change. This whole physical universe which I am experiencing, including the body is also part of the universe. It's not the true self. It's all temporary changing. It's not the truth. Why it is there, Maya, I don't have the explanation, but it is there. I am not that. I am that self. That divine presence is within me. I am that divine presence myself. That is infinite joy, Satchidananda. I am that even now. I've always been that. That conviction has to be developed in our mind. Experience will come later. Experience will take a long time to come, but we have to firmly have the conviction that this whole world, universe, all the body, mind, good people, other people, all these things are only temporary experiences. This is not the ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is only Brahman is there, I am that. And I want to experience it. That conviction is what makes it easy for us to focus our attention in concentration. Then what this conviction does is, it reduces our attachment and expectations from the world. We become less and less attached. Our expectations of happiness will become less and less, and more attention will be paid to the Atman, God within, and less attention to the world outside. That slowly we have to do that conviction, develop that conviction. Brahma Bhutam Akalmasham. Kalmasham means impurity of the mind. We are familiar with that. Lust, anger, greed, pride, jealousy, fear, all those things are impurities, and we have to become free from them. Kalmasham means a yogi who has become free, at least trying hard to become free from those impurities. Such a person who has the conviction that Brahma Bhutam, this whole universe is only Brahman, and I am that Brahman. Brahmaiva Sarvam. With this connection, with the mind becoming generally calm and pure, what happens to such a person? Uttamam Sukham Upaiti. Reach a supreme Sukha that nothing can bring in the outside world. Becoming one with Satchidananda, what can be greater than that one? Infinite. So that is the purpose and goal of meditation, result of meditation. 28 is continuation of the same idea. Yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute evam sada atmanam yunjan. Yunjan means engaging oneself in yoga. Sada, always. Always means as often as possible. Increasing the time of meditation gradually. Yogi vigata kalmashaha. That same vigata kalmasha comes many times. Akalmasham in the previous sloka, akalmasham is vigata kalmashaha means you have to make the mind free from impurities as much as possible. What are the impurities? Lust, anger, greed. We are familiar with. Whenever any of these things come to the mind, desire comes, anger comes, jealousy comes, or fear comes. Whenever this impurity comes to the mind, then you have to pause and say, I am trying to be a yogi. I'm trying to know God. I should not allow myself to become angry or jealous or lustful. We have to control our mind by reasoning, by thinking, by prayer. So that constant effort has to be going on. We should not allow ourselves to be easily become upset. People say and do things which make us upset, but we should remain calm. So let them do whatever they want to do. Why should I be affected by that one? Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame, say not. No praise or blame can be, or praiser praised and blamer blamed on one. Thus be thou calm, sannyas in bold, say, oh, that's up. People do so many things. If you allow ourselves to be upset by all those things, then there's no peace at all. We are handing our control to them. They press the buttons. Let them do whatever they want. Let them say whatever they want. But I'm not going to be affected by what they say or what they do. That comes in the 12th chapter, describing the quality of a bhakta devotee. Sri Krishna says, a true devotee of God should not be upset by what other people do and say, and should not do anything to upset other people. Either way, I should not do or say anything which to make other people upset. And whatever other people do and say, I should not become upset by what. So that freedom we should have. So that is here, Vigata Kalmashaha. Evam Sada Atmanam Yunjan, engaging oneself in yoga in this way. Vigata Kalmashaha, free from all impurities of the mind. Sukhena, easily. Atyantam Sukham Ashnute, reaches supreme Sukha. Atyantam Sukham is supreme Sukha, joy. Ananda. How? Brahma Samsparsha. That Sukha is same as being one with Brahman. Samsparsha means contact. If you realize our infinite Satchidananda nature, you can't describe that happiness in words. The body also cannot sustain that happiness. This human frame, if you get that happiness now, it won't be able to function. It will just cease to function. This is what happened to Sri Ramakrishna. He used to go into Samadhi every day. Somebody used to sing a devotional song. Narendra or someone would sing a devotional song of Kamala Kanta, Ramprasad or somebody. Immediately he would go into Samadhi. Stand up, with totally body would freeze, not even breathing, no blinking, no movement, nothing. Totally frozen. That kind of joy, this frame cannot withstand unless we practice that meditation for a long period of time, gain that ability. And when goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then it will not come back at all to normal living. That person's body will drop off after 21 days because its purpose has been served. Those are very high ideals from where we are now, but that is the nature of infinite Sukha. You become merged with Brahman. This body, mind, sense organs, the world, and this property, everything is left far behind, far behind. Supreme joy that cannot be put in words. I can't explain. That will come. Sukham atyantam, Brahma samsparsham sukham atyantam ashnute. Ashnute means enjoys, experiences. See, this all benefit of meditation. Otherwise, pursuing worldly things, doing this project and buying that home and selling this property, some more shares in this company. What is all this thing? How much happiness will it come? This is not for a serious spiritual speaker. Some people will do it, that is their nature. We are not imposing it on everybody. But those of us who are intent on knowing God, the spiritual aspect of life we are trying to practice for us, these things apply. We cannot teach it to everybody. This is not, Gita is not for everybody. Those who are ready for it, only they will come, only they will benefit. So, spiritual life is a great gift that God has given us uh, this kind of inclination to study Gita at least once a week. Itself is a great gift, I'll tell you. How many people are interested? It's a great gift that we are sitting down together an hour every week, only by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God we are doing this one. It's a great gift already. So we have to strive to the best of our ability in our own humble way, simple way. We can't all be great yogis overnight. It's a slow, steady process requiring effort. But let us do that one. That is the great joy of studying the Bhagavad Gita. So, verse number 28, thus engaging oneself in yoga always, sada atmanam yoga yunjan vigata kalmashaha, free from impurities, sukhena easily, brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. A person achieves supreme joy that culminates in the highest goal of life. There's nothing else to be done after that. And that's the goal of end of human life. Being born a human being, if you achieve that one, you have achieved the goal. There's nothing more to be done after that. And no more coming back to the domain of ignorance once that is achieved. So we go towards number, we have time. Verse number 29. Sarvabhutasthamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Here, a very interesting idea comes in this and the next two verses. It has come before in chapter 5 and chapter 6 also it has come, you'll recognize it. Sarvatra samadarshanaha. Samadarshitva, you are familiar with that one? Seeing the same self in all, treating everybody alike. Samadarshitva means treating everybody alike, seeing God's presence in everybody. You remember where it has come? Twice it has come before. Chapter 5 and chapter 6. Chapter 5, verse number 18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Very nice verse. Interesting verse. In all beings, including animals, Shuni in a dog, Shapaka in the worst human being, Gavi in a cow, Hastini in an elephant, and in the best human being, Vidyavaniya Sampanni Brahman. In all of these, same divine presence is there. But it is not manifest in the same extent. Divine presence is the same. But in different people, it manifests, comes out in different ways to different degrees. If same God is present in the same way in everybody, then why should everybody not be a saint? that question comes. We answered that question before in 518. The reason is in everyone the same God is present in the same way to the same extent, but everybody's mind is not equally pure to let that God's presence shine. The mind has varying degrees of impurities from person to person. Some people's minds are very pure. In their case, God's presence is clearly visible. We call them saintly people. Some people's minds are so impure that though God is there, its presence is hidden behind impure mind, like a concrete wall. God is there, but it cannot be seen. Light is there, but if there is a dark screen, cannot be seen, like that. So it's the mind that causes the obstruction, different qualities of mind. But in all of them, same divine is present. Another example can be given. Question is, if same God is present in the same extent in all, why shouldn't everybody be saintly people? Why are there wicked people? The another example is, on a bright sunny day, sun shines on all the objects on the earth. Sun does not withhold light from someone and put extra light on others. He gives the same amount of light to everything on the earth. But every object on the earth is not reflecting the same amount of sunlight that falls on it. Some objects reflect almost all the light that falls on it, like a mirror. If you keep a mirror in the front yard, sunlight falls on almost all the light that falls on the mirror is reflected like another sun is there. So bright. But if it's a dull object next to that, a piece of mulch, then it does not reflect that much light. Same light falls on both of them. So it is the ability of the mind, difference in the mind, that makes one person able to bring out God's presence more clearly and prevents another person from experiencing God's presence, though it is there all the time. So mind has to be purified. If we purify the mind, we can feel God's presence and we can become one with God, transcending the mind entirely. That is the goal of meditation. So here, Samadarshitva. Let us read 29 again. Sarvabhutastham atmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Is Samadarshita came in chapter 6, verse 9 also. We will not go into that because verse 9 in this chapter 6 also the same thing. Here, Sarvabhutani cha atmani ikshate. Ikshate means sees, perceives. A person who perceives Sarvabhutastham atmanam, perceives the Atman is present in all the bhutas. Bhuta means beings. Human beings, animal beings, plant beings, inanimate object, whole of nature. Sarvabhutastham, present in all the beings, Atmanam, Atman. Ya ikshate, ikshate means he who sees. A person who sees the presence of God in all beings without any exception, even in wicked people, even in animals. Sarvabhutastham atmanam yaha ikshate. Second aspect is Sarvabhutani atmani ikshate, seeing the same self, divine presence in the self also, one's own self. Same divine in me and everybody else. Saha sarvatra samadarshanaha. Such a person is a same-sighted person, samadarshi. Actually, this is a almost a literal repetition of two mantras in the Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad is a short Upanishad, only 18 mantras are there. And in that Ishopanishad, there are two mantras, 6 and 7. They say exactly same thing, almost the same words. So this verse number 29 describes Samadarshitvam. A yogi must see the same divine presence in oneself and in everybody else. And treat everybody with love and compassion, gentleness, including animals and plants, including inanimate objects. What happens? You are nice to people, but sometimes you are not gentle with inanimate objects. We throw things, close the door, like a bang in the door. That cannot happen because there is consciousness, divine consciousness in everything in the universe without any exception. Without any exception, door has to be gently closed. Things are kept in the proper way, in the proper place, gently. So many examples have come before. So that is the application of this one. Treating everybody, everything gently, but using common sense. When we see some instruction like this in the scripture, we should not take it literally and start practicing it mechanically without thinking. Sometimes it may cause unwanted consequences. Supposing there is a wicked man. That wicked man does not know anything about God, does not want to believe in God. If you tell him God is in you, he will say, get lost. So we should not try to do that. Stay away. Yet. We see God in him, but he has no feeling, belief in God. So it doesn't work. From a distance, mentally you say, you are also divine, God is present, but you right now you are not ready. So you stay there, I stay. From distance, I bow down to you, but let us not get close to each other. Remember the parable, Sri Ramakrishna's parable of the elephant, wild elephant, and the boy in the Gurukulam. The boy thought God is present in the elephant also. Teacher had told God is present in animals also. But if you stand in front of the wild elephant, the elephant does not know anything about God. You should stay away from the wild elephant, say, oh, Narayana, elephant, Narayana, you are God, but right now you stay there, I stay here. From distance, I bow down to you, like that one. Same thing when you go to the zoo, so many wild ferocious animals are there, tigers and lions are there. So God is present in them too, absolutely truth. God is present in wild elephants, animals and tigers and lions and snakes. But we should not get close to them. Stay away on the other side of the fence. And from a distance, you go down to them. So we have to use common sense in applying these principles. Literally, if you take the word given in the scriptures in a literal sense and trying to do it mechanically, that should not be done. So that we have to apply understanding in applying this in our relationships with other people, especially wicked people. Nice people, we have no problem. Ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana, always same-sightedness in all beings, towards all beings. The verse number 30, 31, 29, they're all same topic, samadarshi. We'll do verse number 30 and stop there. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha na pranashyati. I'll just read the translation, we'll discuss next time. Verse number 30. I am not lost to him who beholds me everywhere, sees me everywhere, and sees everything in me. Neither is he lost to me. If a person sees God in everything and everything in God, then that person always in contact with God, no separation at all. So that samadarshitva, how to apply it, will continue next time. Now we will have some time for questions.
Namaskaram, Swamiji. One quick question. In one of the earlier chapters today, you mentioned, is it right or wrong to stand up for yourself when somebody demeans you?
When somebody
demeans you, puts you down,
you have to stand up, but without hatred or anger. Hiss but not bite. Sri Ramakrishna's parable. Otherwise, if you don't stand up, you will continue to do it.
Yes.
Well, you stand up, but firmly, without anger, without aggression.
Holding.
Assertive, but not aggressive.
Thank you so
Otherwise,
much.
they will keep on doing it. You will become a doormat. So we should be good, but no, not weak. Tell them, stop here. This is not right. Like that. I have answered to your other question you asked me last time. There are so many things to chant and no time to chant. So one solution that came to me afterwards is you can divide the chanting in different days of the week. For example, people chant Shiva Stotras on Monday, Devi Stotras on Tuesdays and Fridays, Rama Hanuman Stotras on Saturday. Like this, you can distribute. If you can chant all these stotras every day, that's one.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing, Swamiji, because I initially, in addition to Devi Mahatyam, if there's all the mantra vidhi and all that you have to do, it will take 7 hours. There's no time on weekdays.
Yeah, you can't do it every day.
Yeah, so I split it alternate day, one day Parayanam, one day all this, one day Parayanam, one day all this.
Yeah, that's a good way to deal with. Any other question?
Yes,
yeah,
Swamiji, I have one question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we should have the conviction that everything is Brahman, I am Brahman, Brahman or Atman, but at the same time, we also are told to say God is the doer, I am just an instrument. That
Yes.
also we've been told, right?
What's the last part? Tell me the last sentence.
That God, I am just an instrument, God is the doer. That have been told also to us, right?
Yeah, that can be done.
So I am just an instrument, and yet at the same time, I have to have the conviction that I am Brahman.
Yes. So until we have that conviction, as a devotee, you can think I'm only an instrument, the Lord, the Supreme Lord. I'm an instrument in His hands. He does everything according to His will. And I happen to be chosen by Him to do this task. That comes in chapter 11, Shloka 33 in Gita.
Yes.
How to be an instrument. That's one attitude. Some people follow that one. But the jnanis who assert I am Brahman, there's no instrument, there's no Lord. Only Brahman is there, I am that. That's a different way. We have to choose which one works for you.
Yeah, for that, we have to reach a higher level, right?
That is, if you are interested in Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahman, I want to experience it, you go in that direction. Otherwise, if you are a devotee, happy to be a devotee, then I am an instrument, He is the Lord, He does everything. I am an instrument. That attitude you can take. For example, Hanuman, Ramakrishna, Prahlada, all these people, they did not take the position I am Brahman. They could have. They had the experience, but they purposefully as a devotee. Hanuman said, I know that I am you, same as you. I am Brahman, you are Brahman, but I don't want that. I want to be your servant. Dasa. I want you to be my master, Rama, Prabhu. He settled down that one. Sri Ramakrishna said same thing to Divine Mother. Oh, Divine Mother, I don't want Brahmajnana. I'm Brahma. I don't want to give it to those who are seeking. Just make me your little child, 5-year-old child, and you are my mother. That's what I want. Choice.
So is it okay sometimes to feel this way and sometimes to feel that way?
I think so. Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
Both are truth.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I have a quick question, Swamiji?
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned that, of course, everybody has some Brahman inside, but then you also said the degree varies, because you gave a very good example that sunlight falls on everything, but some things glitter more than the others. The question is, who determines it? I mean, God determines it. Is it based on our past karma?
Yes. Mind. If the mind is pure,
yeah,
all the divine presences comes out. If the mind
but
is
we have to make our mind purer. But as you know, this is just my personal opinion, that as we grow older and older, we have less and less worldly things to worry about.
Well,
See, when I was younger, I had to take care of the family, the children's education and everything. Now I am retired, more or less everything is settled, but still there are one or two issues that
will be
I
there.
feel that I should finish before God takes me away. So those
One
one
also
or
you're
two
fortunate.
things, those one or two things still bothers me. So when I say meditate or start meditating, maybe a lot of things come in my head, which of course I understand. We have to get rid of those and concentrate on meditation. But what I'm saying that we are trying to be detached, but still there are few worldly things which is kind of binding, at least me,
Okay.
in this world.
The answer is, if you're asking when all these things completely go away, at what stage do all the concerns completely go away? Will it ever happen? If that is the question, the answer is in the Upanishad. Upanishad says, only when you realize God completely, your oneness with the divine, at that stage, all concerns, all fears, all problems, all impurities, everything will totally, completely, permanently go away. Until then, some trace will remain. You have to accept it and deal with it.
So we have to keep on trying.
You have to
keep
try.
on trying.
Yeah, you have to try, but they will bother you less and less with time.
Okay.
They will be there, but they won't. Yeah, they're harmless.
Okay. Thank you.
Swamiji, I have one small question. Usha is here.
Hmm.
That's the reason that we meditate, because by doing meditation regularly, so the mind gets fine and finer and finer, pure and pure. So I think those attachments, they leave you. But that's the reason we meditate, so we can concentrate on something higher as we go, closer to our goal. I think those attachments should be taking them away themselves. What?
You mean the attachments?
Yes, because the use of meditation is, the benefit of meditation is that, those attachments and those, negative thoughts and all that, they should go away by itself with the practice of meditation.
They will go away. The more you become involved in meditation, the less and less they will bother you, and they will not bother you. The more you move towards God, the more away you move from the world. Sri Ramakrishna said, the more east you will go, the farther away from west you are receding. So more towards God you go, less is the pull of the world. Gradually it will become less. They will be there, but they won't bother you that much as before.
So instead of worrying about, these thoughts come and this and that, if you only concentrate on the value of the meditation, I think those things will gradually, go away.
They will go away, but it's a slow process, gradually. Eventually, we have to become free from everything, and we will become free from everything because our destiny. We are destined to reach God. We are that. Everybody has to reach God sooner or later. That's our destiny. There's no way. There's no way you can't do that one. But it's a matter of time and our intensity, our ability, many factors affect our spiritual life.
This is what it said, the practice. So I think the practice is the one, we need to continue our practice.
Yes, we have to continue our practice.
Yeah, that's what. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah.
A nice thing to remember is we came with nothing, we'll go with nothing. So if we constantly remember that, I think that will help.
Swamiji, Swamiji Bachuvai, the Isha Upanishad has 18 mantras. As you said, I have Isha Upanishad, but I have heard the lecture from Swami Sarvapriyanand. I regularly listen to his lectures. He mentioned at one time that Mandukya Upanishad has only 12 mantras.
12 mantras.
So the shortest one is the Mandukya.
Yes.
I see. Okay. And in Mandukya, I believe the meaning of Om is very clearly and explained.
In
Correct?
the Mandika Upanishad, the three states of awareness, waking, dream, and dreamless deep state,
Correct,
Jagrata,
correct.
Swapna, Sushupti, and the meaning of all these things are in only 12 slokas, shortest Upanishad. But Gaudapada has written a commentary on Manditya, which is called Karika. That
Right,
is 4
Karika,
chapters.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji. Yes.
You ready for closing prayer? Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, let us say closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from diseases and other problems. May all realize and practice what is noble, auspicious, and dharmic. May there be no ill will among all the beings. May no one be subject to misery. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and joy and harmony amongst all the beings. Adi Bhautika Shanti. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Deivika Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu. May everybody be happy and peaceful and well until we see next time. Thank you all. So joyful to be with you at least 1 hour every week. This is the
Thank you.
highlight of my week.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you all. Namaskar.
Thank you, Swami.